Yeah. The answer to that is conservative Christian churches.
Mm.
That's what I would say. I would say the reason that our country and the West, by and large, but our country, we're Americans, we'll talk about America. The reason our country has apostatized is because we have failed to obey Christ's command in, I believe it's Matthew 5. You are to be salt and light, a city on a hill. The command that Christ has given us to be salt. What does salt do? What is salt for? Well, salt seasons, it makes it taste good, but it also, in the ancient world and even today, it's a preservative. Right? It preserves, it prevents decay. Our country, our culture has been rotting and decaying for generations now. Now, why is that? Why has our country been rotting? Why has our culture been decaying? I think many conservatives, Christians, they want to say, it's those crazy leftists, those crazy, it's their fault. Look what they're doing. Yeah. No, false, not their fault. Yes, I mean, it's their fault. Yeah, that's part of it. But at root, fundamentally, it's not their fault because our culture, our country, the Christian nation that we had has apostatized because the church has failed to be salt. That's why. It does no good, and Doug Wilson says this in Mother Kirk. That's why I first read that, at least put it this way. If the meat is rotting, it does no good for the salt to blame the meat, right? It's the salt has lost its tastiness. The salt has lost its saltiness, and it's what? Now it's no good. It's for anything but to be thrown out and to be trampled underfoot. Our pulpits have gone soft. We have compromised on the word of God, left and right. The culture follows the pulpit. The pulpit is steering the ship, right? We have soft teaching that has made hard hearts. That's what's happened. And so that is the greatest obstacle. And that's why I've started my podcast, Reformation Red Pill, because and it's really aimed at probably the majority are pastors or people who are thinking about the ministry in some kind. That's kind of the types of people who tend to watch my podcast. Maybe it's not pastors, but just people who are very ministry minded. That's who I want. Because and I'm not saying, and for me, my whole purpose is I'm not the authority on these things. I'm trying, my whole podcast model is pointing to older, wiser people than me. I'm just kind of I'm the Me Too guy. Like, not Me Too like that, but Me Too in the good way. Like you're thinking like, man, when I say something.
No Weinstein here.
Yeah, that's right. My goal is to get a bunch of guys to say, oh my gosh, me too. Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. And thinking. So anyway, because I know that the way our nation changes is when Christian pastors get it right. Whenever our worship is rightly ordered. And we are discipling a generation of Christians to stand firm without apology on the word of God. If your pastor is not standing firm on the word of God and he's embarrassed, like these sermons that come up and say, okay, today we're going to be talking about, this homosexuality. But before we start, I want you to know I've got gay friends. We love you, and we're not saying it's worse than any, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like a big apology sandwich where they're like apologizing for 10 minutes, and then they'll say that it's a sin, and then they'll apologize and say, it's not what I want. I'm just the messenger. Da-da-da-da. Okay, that is pathetic.
Yeah,
and that's what I used to be. That's the kind of Christian I used to be because I thought I wanted to gain an audience with the person who's struggling with homosexuality or whatever. I don't want to be mean. Like the 11th commandment for evangelicals, thou shalt be nice. I don't want to be mean. I got to be nice. Okay? We must be done with this. We must be done with this. We have got to stand firm without apology on the word of God. That's where it starts. Worship and right preaching will transform our country. It just will. When we get worship right and the word of God proclaimed. The word of God, what? It does not return void. That's the truth.